It's just over 4 months now since the Labour Party took power in the United Kingdom, but already the Prime Minister Keir Starmer and the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan have met face-to-face twice. With the escalation of the war in Ukraine, the sale of Eurofighter Typhoon jets to Turkey, and the possibility of more talks on Cyprus, there's plenty to discuss. I'm Andrew Hopkins, and I've been speaking to Stephen Doughty, the UK Minister for Europe, North Americas and Overseas Territories, one-on-one. Stephen Doughty, thank you very much for talking to TRT World. The Labour Party has been in power now for just a few months, but already there have been 2 meetings face-to-face between Keir Starmer and Recep Tayyip Erdogan. What's driving this? It seems like you're very quick off the mark with the relationship with Turkey. What's your priority in terms of your relationship with the country at the moment?
Well, this is a critical relationship. We're key allies in NATO. We're key partners in our economic and commercial relationship. We've got many shared interests when it comes to the challenges in the regions that Turkey finds itself in and that we find ourselves in as partners in Europe at either end. And we've also got common ground when it comes to dealing with challenges such as climate change, exploiting new opportunities in science and technology. So there's a huge amount that makes up this relationship. And of course, our huge people-to-people ties, Turkish communities in the UK, UK communities here in Turkey. And that's why this relationship is so important. And as part of our wider reset of relationships around the world, and particularly with Europe, a lot of the focus that's been on the UK-EU reset. But we're clear this is a reset with our partners across Europe. Key NATO allies like Turkey are actually absolutely at the heart of that. And that's why we've given it this focus. And it's why I'm here in Ankara, meeting with my counterparts and engaging with a range of figures from across the political spectrum here.
I was going to ask you a bit more about that because the previous Conservative government, one of its priorities was to renegotiate the free trade deal from 2021. So I presume that's one of your priorities as well. But what do you plan to do different than the previous government?
Well, we want to establish strong bilateral relationships with partners like Turkey, but we want to make sure that those are also delivering on shared goals outside of our two countries. And I've been talking today how, for example, we've been working together in Moldova, responding to the challenges that they've faced to their democracy, that we've got a shared interest in. Our work in the Western Balkans together. We've been there as part of KFOR together. We've got shared interests, economic, commercial, historical relationships there. So it's about turning sometimes words on paper into actual action. And I think there's a huge amount that we can do also in our defence relationships, our defence industrial relationships. And as I said, in those new frontiers of science and technology, I'm going to be visiting companies while I'm here involved in nanotechnology. And our cooperation in those fields is going to be crucial in the years ahead.
Now, Keir Starmer has already been on the telephone with Donald Trump to congratulate him on being elected the next president of the United States. How do you see this relationship developing between the UK and the United States, but also in terms of the war in Ukraine, because Donald Trump has said he wants to end the war within 24 hours. So how can you work with him on this issue and also bring about a fair settlement for Ukraine in terms of things like preserving its territorial integrity, for instance?
Well, first and foremost, all three of us are key NATO allies. And this is an alliance that started out obviously under a Labour government 75 years ago. This is an incredibly important relationship, and we're going to continue to be committed to that. And this government's commitment to NATO and the security that it brings all of us in Europe and in the Euro-Atlantic arena, our support for that is absolutely resolute, and it's why we're making the commitments we are on defence spending and on cooperation with our NATO allies, and why we're engaged in a strategic defence review. And I am confident that relationship will see us through thick and thin as it has done in the past. And that's built on our partnership in NATO. It's also based on that special relationship that we have with the United States, and that transcends any government, any administration. And it's been very clear to me since joining the government just how important that relationship with the United States is. And so that's why we've been having very important and positive conversations both before And since the election with President-elect Trump and indeed Vice President-elect Vance. And so I'm confident that relationship is going to stand the test of time. On Ukraine, we are absolutely clear in our ironclad support for Ukraine. We're absolutely clear in the military support that we're providing, the financial support that we're providing. We've given a $3 billion a year commitment, and we've given new commitments with the United States and indeed European partners and through the G7 recently with the Extraordinary Revenue Accelerator, which is going to deliver another addition over £2 billion from the United Kingdom and a lot more from others, using the resources from Russian frozen sovereign assets. So we are absolutely committed militarily, politically, diplomatically, in terms of our financial support, and we will continue to provide Ukraine all the support it needs.
Just a couple of other things about Ukraine as well, because there have been these reports in the media in the last few days about these long-range missiles that have been fired from Ukraine into Russian territory, and some of them have been named as the Storm Shadow, which is reportedly supplied by the United Kingdom. What can you say about that? And also, what's the UK government's priority in Ukraine? Is it more to give the Ukraine enough weaponry to win the war, so to speak, or to try and push everybody towards a diplomatic solution?
We've provided a huge amount of support to Ukraine for them to conduct their legitimate defence under the United Nations Charter, and we'll continue to provide that support. We don't go into operational matters, but we will continue to stand resolute with them every step of the way.
Onto a different topic now, the Eurofighter Typhoon jets, which there are negotiations currently underway involving the United Kingdom, also Spain, Italy and Germany, to sell 40 of them to Turkey. What's the current state of those negotiations, and is it certain that the deal will go ahead?
Well, obviously, you wouldn't expect me to comment on sort of ongoing discussions, but we want to strengthen our defence industrial cooperation with Turkey across a range of routes, and that's why there's been important conversations between our Defence Secretary and the Turkey government. And of course, Eurofighter Typhoons, are subject to a range of processes involving the key partners in the project, including, of course, Germany, but also Spain and Italy and others. And we need to make sure that those are followed properly, as you would expect. But we're very clear we want to see an enhanced defence and defence industrial relationship with Turkey, who is, of course, a key NATO ally.
On Cyprus now as well, I understand there are talks going on between the United Nations, the two Cypriot communities on the island, but also now the guarantor countries, so Turkey, Greece and the United Kingdom, about having another meeting to try and bring about a lasting solution on the island. What can you tell me about the state of those negotiations at the moment, and what role is the United Kingdom going to play in those talks?
Well, we take our role as a guarantor power very seriously, and we, of course, engage closely with all of the parties around this issue through the United Nations process. And we warmly welcome the efforts that the Secretary General's been making. And I indeed met with his special envoy on this issue. I've continued to engage with all of the parties, spoken to them all about this in recent weeks. And obviously we hope that all sides will come with flexibility and openness and a willingness to engage on a process. Ultimately, this, of course, is going to be about Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot leaders finding ways forward. We continue to believe that the bizonal bicommunal federation model under the UN proposals provides suitable flexibility for all sides. But as I said, ultimately this will be for Greek Cypriot and Turkish Cypriot communities to take forward. And I've engaged extensively with communities in the UK. I've obviously visited Cyprus a number of times myself, and we will stand to work with all the parties in line with our role under that UN process and as a guarantor power.
Is this next meeting, do you think, close at hand, if you like? Do you think it may happen soon? And do you believe that a format for this meeting is close to agreement as well?
Well, ultimately, those aren't matters for us to set. It's the United Nations that leads on this process, and they'll obviously, set forward whatever agreements they've been able to reach on any discussions in due course. But we stand ready, given our important role on this, to work with all the parties and to engage in that in good faith and as a friend to all.
The COP29 Climate Action Conference has just wrapped up in Azerbaijan, and both the United Kingdom and Turkey have very similar net zero targets. United Kingdom by 2050, Turkey by 2053. And in recent years, there's been, it seems, quite a bit of investment from the UK in this country, particularly in renewable energy, solar energy, that kind of thing. So how is this working, and what benefit is this bringing to the UK in terms of climate goals and such like when the investment is in Turkey?
Well, fundamentally, investment in green transition is good for all of us because it's good for the planet, and it's good for tackling the challenge that is posed, an existential challenge by climate change, and actually allied to that, the nature emergency that we're seeing as well. And, you know, it's only since I've been here this morning, been talking with people about the changing snowfall patterns here in Turkey and the impact that then has on water, that has then on agricultural production and farmers. I've just come from my own country's been facing devastating floods in recent days in Wales, and we are all seeing changes in climate, and we're all seeing intensity of weather that we haven't seen before. And while one can't attribute an individual event, we're all having to live in a world that is changing and changing rapidly, and we've got to come together on those targets, as we did, as you rightly pointed out, at COP. And I'm glad that we both as countries have huge ambitions in this area, but actually there's a huge mutual benefit here about investing in technologies, in ways forward in renewable energy. I'm really glad that we're having that kind of relationship with Turkey. I think there's a huge amount of potential here to develop that further. I know there are going to be important meetings and discussions on those issues in the days to come between our two countries, and I think we can show leadership on this on a global scale. That's why the Foreign Secretary set out our plans for a global clean power alliance. And you really see the UK back on the world stage here, not only fighting for the right targets at the COP process, but also putting our money where our mouth is in terms of the investment that we're doing, both in the United Kingdom, but also with partners on new technologies and changes. Because ultimately this is about not only tackling climate change, it's also about energy security. It's about not having to rely on tyrants like Putin, and it's also about ensuring that we can deliver affordable energy and sustainable energy for our citizens. So I think the UK and Turkey have here a huge common agenda, not only for ourselves, but also on a global stage.
Stephen Doughty, thank you very much.